to this service where we honor the life of Austin Davis and seek to comfort those who mourn his death. On behalf of Joanne, Carrie, Gray, and all of the extended family, along with the congregation of First Baptist Church, we thank you for your prayers and your care and support in this time of loss. Let us pray. God, be with us now as we remember Austin's life and acknowledge the impact of his death. Jesus told us, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." We ask for your presence and comfort now, O loving God. Amen. We'd like to start by acknowledging God's goodness and grace. So we're going to sing "How Great Thou Art." It's number 2 in the golden hymnal. California on August 14, 1961, the son of Horace and Mary Gates. His early years were not easy ones, with abuse and trauma as a part of his growing up. The family was poor and moved often, just ahead of the collection agents sometimes. After graduating from high school, Austin enlisted in the Army, where he became a heavy equipment operator. For those of us who saw Austin driving his electric wheelchair around town, I think we could certainly see the influence of the way he was maybe a bulldozer operator, played into the way he drove his wheelchair, at least. Austin and Joanne met while he was stationed at Fort Devens. One night when Joanne went out with a friend to go bowling, and maybe to pick up guys, at the bowling alley at the base. Joanne said she actually met two guys that night, and Austin told the other guy to get lost a couple weeks later. They became engaged 4 months after meeting and were married 9 months later. This coming Sunday is their 34th wedding anniversary. I was visiting with Austin a couple of weeks ago when Joanne and Carrie were pulling out Joanne's wedding dress to see if they could use something for Carrie's wedding. And he said, "I really liked seeing her in that dress," with a twinkle in his eye. Austin was grateful for a family and a place to really call home when they moved into their first apartment together. And that devotion to family only grew. But hard times were not absent from their life together. Just 5 weeks after the wedding, Joanne got a call that Austin was all right, but in intensive care after a work-related car accident. The injuries from that accident ultimately proved debilitating enough that in 3 more years, Austin was given an honorable discharge after 7 years in the service. After that discharge, he worked as a truck driver and at Domino's Pizza for a while. Austin struggled with addiction and depression, and that had an impact on his keeping a job. He then worked at Biogen as part of their laboratory glass sterilization crew until he developed vision problems that impacted his work and was diagnosed with diabetes. Austin certainly understood what it meant to face life's challenges. Because they thought Austin might be posted again to overseas to Germany, Joanne and Austin started a family right away, with baby Carrie arriving within 15 months after marriage, and baby Greg not quite 3 years later. Austin was a devoted father, there at every special event, skating competition, graduation, and award ceremony with his video camera in hand. With just a high school education himself, he was very proud of his children's multiple degrees and educational accomplishments. He loved grilling, smoking, and cooking outdoors for his family. I tried to invite him in to cook inside for the church last week when he was driving around, and he said, "No, I leave that to Joanne." So he only cooked outside. Family time also included watching action, superhero, and sci-fi movies, probably with a dog curled up alongside. Around 2002, Austin and Joanne began attending a local non-denominational church. He was baptized as an adult there, and a couple years later he began looking for a new church and started coming here to First Baptist of Littleton. Austin soon became involved and became a building trustee for the congregation. The church community became a supportive extended family, and the spiritual and social support helped Austin in dealing with his depression and addiction, as well as providing support for Joanne and his family in recent years as some of his medical conditions became more serious. 3 years ago, a diabetes-related infection triggered the amputation of one leg, and a bit over a year ago, the second leg had to be amputated as well. This past year, Austin worked toward getting his 2 prosthetics into action with setbacks around heart problems that made his blood pressure erratic. His goal was to be able to walk his daughter Carrie down the aisle for a wedding in early May. The winter was hard, and Austin wasn't able to get out much, but he came to the church for the first time in months on Easter Sunday, and we were glad to see him in such good spirits. He was also able to attend a family Easter and birthday gathering in the afternoon for the first time in over a year. But it was there that he collapsed and emergency responders could not get his heart started again, and he died that evening. Those who knew Austin well know that he had a wry sense of humor and a twinkle in his eye. He loved his iced Dunkin's coffee and was always grateful to his family when they stopped and got him one. He faced a lot of challenges, but didn't let them keep him down. He was a thoughtful and kind person, and I knew him as someone who was willing to wrestle with spiritual questions, and as someone who lived as Jesus calls us to live, with love toward one another. We will miss his presence with us. I would invite those of you here to share memories of Austin and Austin's daughter Carrie is going to start our time of memories. And then others invited to share, and I would invite you to come up to the microphone over here so that all can hear.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, I wanted to first thank you, Pastor Nancy, for having an amazing summary of my father's life. We were able to share that with Pastor Nancy the other day, and she summarized it as probably one of the best way we could come up with. So, about that Dunkin' Donuts coffee, though, he not only was grateful, he expected me to win. So, it was more that, where's my coffee? So I just wanted to get that clear. Because he was grateful when I showed up, but when I didn't, he said, where is it? Why didn't you get me a coffee? The only thing he wanted for Christmas was Dunkin' Donuts gift cards, because that could last forever. And my Aunt Sue, she always gave a nice big amount, and my dad would last him maybe about a week. But I want to say first and foremost, he was an amazing husband, an amazing father. He was the best brother to his sisters. He was an uncle, 5 nieces and 2 nephews. He's a great uncle to many, many children. And an amazing friend. As Pastor Nancy mentioned, he loved drinking his iced coffee, regardless of the temperature. If it was a blizzard, then he was making coffee at home. If it was a nice day out, no matter what time of year, he was drinking his iced coffee. He loved tinkering around, computers, power tools, taking photos, video recording, anything that he just loved to stay busy. Another thing I used to joke about is that as opposed to King Midas, who had the Midas golden touch, my dad often was breaking things or things were broken, and he always had to get them fixed. So every time he touched a computer, it was like, I gotta get this fixed, we gotta take it in, I need my computer fixed. So we have many different pieces of computers and a whole bunch of computer-related equipment at home. And it's always like, what are we doing with this stuff? Get this out of here. He loved riding his wheelchair around town, as many of you who live in Littleton have known and seen. Oftentimes, one of the church members the other day said, he almost had to give him a speeding ticket because he was going so fast. The thing goes 3 miles an hour, but still. Just to put in perspective how much he loved his children, myself and my brother. I'm a field hockey coach, and I coached Littleton. And if anyone knows, the field is the alumni field over on Russell Street. My dad took his scooter, I helped, or his wheelchair, I made sure that he had all of the proper reflectors. We decked it all out with reflectors because when he was returning, it would be darker. He drove from our house to the Russell Street field, stayed, took some video, recorded, watched the game to see me as a coach. And I mean, that's pretty much, that's a lot of dedication. And he loved it. He was excited about it, and I'm so grateful that he got to see that. When we were singing, I feel really bad because my dad was right next to us. He would tell me I was tone deaf and that I could probably stop singing, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dad. As Pastor Nancy said, he served as a soldier in the United States Army faithfully for 7 years, being stationed in Germany. He's devoted to his loving wife. My mom would do anything and did anything and everything for him. And he returned as much as he could. As we said, she also said, it was not an easy life for him, but as most of you hopefully know him, no matter what condition he was in, he was smiling. He was telling other people it was going to be okay, and you wouldn't think anything of it. He just made it work. He was very sure to say thank you to other veterans as he saw them, always appreciating their service. My father was so always thinking of others that my aunt, unfortunately lives in California and couldn't be here, but she shared a story that said there was this Dumbo stuffed animal, and this Dumbo stuffed animal was gotten on my dad's graduation night in California when he went to high school, and they lived really close to Disneyland, so they got to go to Disneyland quite frequently, and they got to go, and my aunt loves Dumbo, or she loved elephants, and Dumbo was obviously an elephant, and so my dad made sure to get her that gift, and I don't know if it was a girl at the time that he maybe was dating, or just went with, or whatever, but she thought the elephant was for her, and he said, no, this is for my sister. And then they never talked again. Which worked out in our favor because he was able to ship off and over here on this other side of the country and meet my mom, and that was that. I honestly was trying to think, I can never think of him saying a bad word about anybody. I really can't. If you knew him, and if he knew you, he loved you. Whether he met you one time, or whether he knew you for a lifetime, he loved you, and he adored you, and he was grateful for you. But yes, I can confidently say that he was never mad. Things just rolled off his shoulder. I definitely got more heated in a lot of conversations, especially when it came to my dad's prosthetic legs. Very, very upset with hospitals, and my mom and I are very frustrated, but my dad just said, it'll get figured out. And he didn't get upset. He would actually be upset when my mom and I would make a fuss about it, because he would say, just let it be. Last night, ironically enough, I got my own, I have a couple, but I got my own Bible. My parents gave it to me for an Easter present this past Easter. And last night, before I went to bed, I asked Kevin, who's my fiance, who's here today, and thank you for everything. I asked him if he could grab my computer for me because I wanted to look up some passages that might be good. And I looked up passages for funerals and grief, and I was like, none of these are really what I want. And I said, you know what, Kevin? There's been times in my life where I've really struggled with my own issues of anxiety and depression, so my dad and I got along. We could understand that. And I just said, sometimes when I'm really, really having a hard time, I just open the Bible to a page. I just pick a page, open it up, and I'm a strong believer that God, faith, will lead me to the way. So I wanted to just read this brief passage. This is literally the page that it opened up to. So I guarantee I will cry as I read it. Then you will go on your way in safety, and your foot will not stumble. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Have no fear of a sudden disaster or of the ruin that overtakes the wicked, for the Lord will be at your side and will keep your foot from being snared. And I don't know about you guys, that's from Proverbs chapter 3, verse 23 to 26. And that just, if you know what happened, that is probably the most powerful thing in this whole Bible. And that literally opened up to that page and was right there. This morning I got into the car and I heard the song, and right all of a sudden I looked up and I have on my Sirius XM on my car, it says the name of the artist and the title of the song. And I looked and I just said, Kevin, look at this. Look at the title of this song. And I wanted to just read briefly some of the lyrics, not the whole song, but I'll read this. Sometimes we fall down and can't get back up. We're hiding behind skin that's too tough. How come we don't say I love you enough? Till it's too late, it's not too late. So if your life flashed before your eyes, what would you wish you would have done? You've got to start looking at the hands of time we've been given here. We only got 400 seconds in a day to turn it all around or throw it all away. Gotta tell them that we love them while we got the chance to say, gotta live like we're dying. You never know a good thing until it's gone. You never see a crash until it's head on. Why we think we're right when we're dead wrong. You never know a good thing until it's gone. We gotta live like we're dying. And that's by Chris Allen. And I don't know, all of these things are happening to me, especially that it happened last night. First when we got into the car, I couldn't make this stuff up if I tried. And I was amazed. The other thing I wanted to say, so although this is probably one of the saddest days, if not the saddest day of my life, there's been many, many times that unfortunately tragedy has struck our family. But this is the most devastating loss I've ever had. My dad and I, we were very much alike, so we often butted heads, just like I'm sure most families do. But I would do anything for my dad. And I did anything and everything for my dad. So just to put it in perspective, when my dad lost his first leg, he was in the hospital. The day that he left in the car, I thought we were going to lose him. I'd never seen my father the way he looked. He couldn't move, he couldn't talk, couldn't do anything. And I said, I'm going to lose him today. And fortunately, he was okay. He saved. We were saved. He ended up getting his first foot amputated. Even in the hospital bed before he went away for surgery, I literally, on the poster board and on my Facebook, there's a picture of him smiling, giving peace signs. And this is as he's about to go into surgery. So you would think that he would be a nervous wreck, but we had our previous pastor come and pray, and he was so grateful and felt so at peace that whatever was going to happen was going to happen. And the fact that he was smiling, he was in surgery for a long time. They didn't tell us he was out, so we were thinking the worst. We go down, we find out, oh, he's been released, he's downstairs. He came downstairs, he was shoveling spaghetti into his mouth, so he was fine. Me and my mom are a hot mess, and he is eating his supper like, I'm good, what's wrong? So that's just how quickly he was able to bounce back. So his inner struggle, luckily, the light in him and the light of everyone else was able to outshine those struggles. The other thing I had wanted to mention was that the morning of Easter, this past Easter, he knew I was coming down to church, and I was downstairs, I believe, in the kitchen, and my dad comes in through the back ramp because it's a handicap entrance. And so he saw me, and he just looked at me like he wasn't expecting me, but he said, I knew I was expecting you, but he was just so happy to see me. So I was so grateful for that. I was able to come for church. We were able to watch the Mass downstairs on TV. My dad's unable to get up here to watch it, so we had it going on downstairs. And we spent the day that time, and sadly enough, I asked my dad, I thought this is a really nice big space downstairs, and I said maybe we could practice dancing, because I was not sure if we were going to have a father-daughter dance, because I wasn't sure. So in 4.5 weeks, when I get married, I wanted him to, either if he was going to walk me down the aisle, or if he was going to roll in his electric wheelchair. But either way, we were trying to figure out how are we going to hold hands, are we going to hold hands, arms, how is the dress is that going to get it stuck in the wheel, all the little logistics. And then I was thinking, hey, maybe we should practice dancing, And we wanted to dance, and we wanted to practice dancing. And church was ending, and people were coming down, but now that I look at it, I said, we should have danced. And on his way home, he took his electric wheelchair and went home. And I didn't find this out till later in the day, but he stopped by his best friend's house. His best friend lived right around the corner, and it was actually a garage that my grandfather had built, and was now passed on to one of my best friends and her family. So my dad, whenever we couldn't find him, we would say, gotta look over at Bob's, let's see if he's over there. Where is he? He's not home yet. He's at Bob's, And he actually said, when we were at church that day, he said, we gotta fix something. We gotta fix something in the yard. He's like, Bob's got a new tool, a new toy. And I said, what is it? And he's like, it's a backhoe. And I was like, how are we gonna, this problem that we have does not need a backhoe. He said, I'm like, oh, is Bob itching to use it? And he goes, no, I'm itching for him to use it. So he just loved watching everything. He loved that. And fortunately enough, on his way home, he was able to stop at the garage and got to spend some his moments with his friends. And just made me very happy to know that. We got him to Easter. We were able to, I got him food. He was the first person to eat. My aunt said, food's ready. I said, Dad, I'm gonna get you a little bit of everything. He had a lovely plate. He had a couple drinks. He had dessert. And then it happened. So I can honestly say that up until that tragic moment, my dad was able to see friends, church family. He went to Dunkin' Donuts before church, got his coffee. He literally had the best day ever. So I want to leave on that note, knowing that my dad's last day here, even though he didn't know it, he was living like he was dying. So just as a closing, I hope that every time, this is what I ask of people, every time you see a veteran, please thank them for their service. Even if it's a little bit out of your own way, please do that. Next time you have a coffee, say a little prayer for my father. Anytime you might watch the movie, one of his favorite movies was National Treasure with Nicolas Cage, or You've Got Mail, over and over, I used to watch those. If you ever see those movies, just think about my dad. Laugh a little. And if you see any superhero movies, think of my dad. And most importantly, if you see someone who may be in a wheelchair or may be struggling with some other sort of handicap, please just go out of your way and make sure that they're okay. And it's really hard because a lot of places say that they're wheelchair accessible, and they're really not. So anytime that you can make a suggestion or say this isn't, even though it's a wheelchair, it doesn't, a lot of things are not, they're up to code, but they're not accessible for people like my father. So every day is a struggle for people with that. Every day is struggle. Everyone's struggling with everything, and I know that. But please, if you can do any of those things, I would greatly appreciate that. And he would greatly appreciate that. And he would be crying tears of joy because he would think that he doesn't deserve to have all of you here. He was just so fortunate to have people in his life that loved him. And his church family, this church, saved his life on many occasions. And more often than not, this church saved him. And I think with that, one of the next hymns that is coming up is one that I found, and I don't want to jump ahead, but it says, "Servant of God, well done." And it was also one of those things that I read and I said, this has to happen. I need to hear this, because my dad not only was literally a soldier, but he was also Christ's soldier. And he's now laying down peacefully, and he did his job, and he did it well. So with that, I want to say thank you all for coming.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Hi, I'm Chris. Austin was my uncle. I usually work better from the script, so saw I've got a few notes scribbled down. My daughter Melody was watching me, trying to figure out what I was writing. I had a thought days ago of something that I could say, and I didn't get any further. Sorry about that. So this is a little disorganized, so I apologize. I wanted to talk about strength really briefly, and all kinds of strength. And the reason I want to bring that up is because I was the weird kid growing up. I was not the traditional boy. I was surrounded by cousins who were great at sports. My brother, who was at least all of these people who, in my mind, were really good at being boys and men, and I was just kind of weird. And Austin was the first person to give me a big box of comic books. I still have some of them. And that he was a soldier that gave me a bunch of comic books was the first sort of opening in my mind to the fact that these people who I viewed as way better at being men than me also saw the potential in me. And never more was that nailed home for me than after my grandfather passed away in 1994. I was 16. I was 3 or 4 weeks away from my 17th birthday, and I asked for permission to give a speech at the funeral. And after I did so, aside from my mom and my aunts and my dad, the biggest hug that I got was from Austin. And the love that was there, not just for what I'd said and for the way that he missed my grandfather too, but the love that he gave me in that moment for doing something that I didn't even think of as that strong, as putting words out there, as standing up in front of people, is something I'll forever be thankful for. You sort of over time get to know that you have more in common with people than you think, and more that maybe you've forgotten. So I'll just close by saying that that last night on the beautiful boards that Carrie put together, I don't know if it was just you or I want to make sure I give credit to everybody. But on those beautiful boards full of memories of Austin, I spotted this one photo of Austin with his video camera. And so the picture's taken from behind him, and he had his video camera pointed at a snowbank and at Carrie hunting for Easter eggs. And those of you who are in the family know that I've made a habit over the last few years of making videos of all the kids hunting for Easter eggs. And that was just one more thing that made me go, here's this brave, tough, but sensitive, incredibly kind soul, and I have more in common with him than I realized even before. I mean, I remember that he did that. I remember but I'd forgotten until then. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for letting me take a moment to come up here.
I'll be very mad at myself if I don't say this. So I'm fortunately enough I'm marrying into a wonderful family. My future in-laws are here, and the night of my engagement party I had come home when Pastor Nancy actually just said she had come to my house on a Thursday. That's when I went home and I looked at my mother's dress. I wanted to take a piece of her dress or her veil and be able to wrap it around my bouquet as something old for the traditional bridal quote, and so Pastor Nancy got to see my mom's dress. I got to look at my mom's dress for the first time, and my dad, like she said, he loved seeing my mom in that dress. And I know that their wedding day was one of the best days of their life. And I'm looking forward to our wedding day being one of the best days of my life. The other thing, so my dad had on Thursday, the day before our Jack and Jill engagement party, which was that Saturday, St. Patrick's Day, I came home and I found out that my dad still didn't have his prosthetics, and I was really mad, and I said, Dad, you need to tell them that this is a very important deal, and that I need you to be there. He said, I'll do what I can, I'll go to the amputee support group and talk to people. What I didn't know was that he did talk to them, and he practiced. During that time, he practiced getting in and out of a car, and he needed to prove himself that he could get in and out of the van. So when I walked into the Jack and Jill, literally the first person I saw after Barbara was trying to give me a little surprise. I saw she was gonna kind of block my way until I came in. And even then I had seen my dad and I started bawling right when I walked in. Just done my hair and makeup, and I was like, of all people, you're making me cry right now. And I was so grateful that he was there. And my only regret is that I didn't get to have a picture of him that night. But I know he had an amazing time. What he did at one point, he went off into the side, into the back corner, so he could get a better view of everyone. People were dancing, he was bobbing along to the music, he loved songs like from Journey, from the Eagles, all beautiful classic music, classic rock music. Anyhow, he was kind of sitting over by himself, and some people had kind of said they didn't know if he wanted company, if they didn't want him to feel alone. So people would go in and check on him, how are you doing, do you need anything? And it had already happened, but I was very, my dad often, and I say this with love, Dad, and hope you know that, he would get crumbs, or he would maybe a stain here and there on shirts. My mom had to throw away a lot of shirts over the years. And I was like, Dad, where are all these crumbs? What is going on? Because every time I went over, he had more crumbs. He's just sitting there, and my future father-in-law and I were standing there talking, and that was the first time my dad was able to meet both my future in-laws. So it was the first time, so I'm really happy that this happened. But all of a sudden, I asked my dad, why does he have so much crumbs? And as I'm asking, he reaches into his prosthetic and grabs a pretzel rod. Covered in, it was a, white chocolate dip, so it's I believe. He just grabbed it, and he got more of it stuff. So the other day I was talking to my fiance and and I said, he really has helped me realize that there's so much more important things than how you look, what you're wearing. He just cared, and as Chris just said, his soul was so great and beautiful. So I've had so many people come up and tell me stories, and at one point, I believe my best friend, she said she went over to, and my maid of honor, she went over to him and just checked in with him. And my dad said to her, I'm so sorry for the passing of your father. And that was 7 years ago, but they hadn't really seen each other since. So my maid of honor was taken aback because she said he remembered. And that's the first thing that he said, I'm so sorry about your loss. He was also an Army. And Jenna is my best friend's daughter's here today with me, and so her grandfather had passed away and was in the Army as well. So they had a bond. And Kristen had said that my dad was in tears, and he was watching us dance and watching us have fun and me throw a pie in Kevin's face and all these fun things. So he really got to also have, that was probably one of his other best days. He got to see us happy. And like I said, I hate to have regrets, but I wish I got to spend a little bit more time with him that night. And I wish I got to have a picture. So going through all these photos that I put on the photo board, you really learn a lot about someone. So also one of those takeaway points is even if you don't feel like you look good in a picture, don't delete pictures, just take the picture. Because you're gonna need it and you're gonna want it. And it doesn't matter how you look. Trust me, you want the memory. So with that, again, thank you.
My name is Barbara. I'm really close to Joanne. Our relationship, we didn't realize until she first came to this church, but my relationship even goes back further. My husband, who's from Littleton, I'm from the Cape area, had the honors of working with Joanne's dad. So our friendship even goes back further. We did things but didn't carry it forward. I want to represent my grandbabies. Joanne and Austin, Greg, and Carrie have helped us with my grandbabies. They come to church here, they look forward to seeing Austin and his robot legs. I'm very disappointed with myself because Sunday's a holy day for us. And my kids are trauma kids, so I have to have consideration for them. And Joanne and I talked the night before. Austin wanted to go to Sunrise Mass, and Joanne's like, no, it's not safe because of the sidewalks. I understand. And I was planning on being here, and I didn't because my grandbabies got up so early. We chose to go to Sunrise Mass as a family and didn't come to 10. I'm really glad for Austin for that day because my kids had the best time with Austin. We would go to their home as well as see them in a church. They've been to our house. We had the honor for this Thanksgiving because if you know, Austin hasn't been able to come out. And I chose to have our Thanksgiving here so Austin and Carrie and Kevin and Greg were able to join us along with some of our church friends, Scott, and some of our own family, because that's important. The two biggest holidays of my life are Thanksgiving and Easter, because it's not about a tangible, it's about what we do for somebody else. So those were two big things. So I was so honored to be able to do that. And he was able to come in his chair. On Sunday, again, my children weren't able to come. But Joanne, as well as different people, text me because I was able to go to Joanne and I was able to help her and I was able to also have some communication with our church family. And that morning, he moved. He had his camera. He had his phone camera. And he took so many pictures of our church family. He got to stay downstairs with the youth, Miss Ellis's grandbabies. He was a big part of our life, huge part of our life. He's going to be greatly missed. My grandkids are very excited though because he doesn't have robot legs anymore. He's up there dancing, so he's whole. So I'm happy for that. And he had a really good day. He had a really good day. Even though I wasn't able to be part of it, I was with you. I was with you the night before. I was with you that morning and that day. But most of all, he's a great man. And he moved. We had another person in our church that had a horrible accident. And he was able to come to church Sunday. I mean, we have a lot of youth that are in college that come home that day. So again, Austin was able to have a conversation he turned around and told the youth, you know, you're going to get through it. You do have PTSD, but you will get through it one day at a time. You know, again, he was able to hang out with some of our grandkids that were here. He talked to so many people that day. That man could not have lived a better day. He had struggled the last 3 years hard. But you know something? That one day made up for the last 3 years in every one of our lives. And I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of his life. Thank you.
As Carrie mentioned, she found our next hymn as being one that really spoke to her of her dad's life. And it's inspired by a verse from Matthew 25. And the context of that scripture is from the parable of Jesus about the landowner who travels and gives each of his servants some money, a denomination called talents, to invest while he's gone. And the one that he gave 5 talents to invested and returned 5 more talents while the master was away. And on his return, this is what the scripture says. His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." So let us sing this hymn. Now, it's not one that's familiar to many of us, I suspect, but the words are fabulous and so appropriate. Stand as you are able. Often we think of this parable as one that encourages us to do the most with the skills and talents that God gives us, and not to hide our talents, but to put them to use. Reflecting on Austin's life and all the grace that he showed through early hard times and later in facing addiction and many health and medical issues and over multiple hospitalizations, I began to think that maybe this scripture also speaks to what we do to show God's grace and love to others as we deal with hard times. Or perhaps grace under fire is a talent in and of itself. even if we are occasionally grumpy or depressed. And when life is just plain hard, how do we bring our best selves, our kindest and most loving selves, to our families and friends each day? How do we meet life's challenges? Do we hide from them, or do we rise above them? If we were standing in Austin's prosthetics, how would we have managed? God really just asks us to do what we can with as much love and grace as we can, as Austin did. Well done, servant of God. As you begin your time of loss and mourning, you may also have a sense of relief because Austin is no longer suffering and in pain. Now, though, you are hurt. Because even though you've been bracing yourself for the possibility each time Austin had a major operation, it's nevertheless hard to lose someone so loved and so long a dear presence in your life. So Jesus reminds us that we are not alone, that He is with us to share our burdens and to help us find rest and peace for our souls, just as Austin has now found rest from his pain. We have the love of God and of each other with us, and our memories of good times and shared love to sustain us. I remind you to turn to God and to loved ones in the days ahead, because you do not have to bear the weight of grief and loss alone. I think of grief often as coming in waves, and it varies from day to day and season to season. In the days ahead, some of these waves may knock you off your feet and pull you under. Many days, the grief may just throw you a bit off balance, like a little wave might. Whatever the size of the wave, you don't stand alone. In the Gospel of John, chapter 14, Jesus said, "Do not let your heart be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In God's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. And I will ask the one who sent me to give you a comforter, to be with you forever. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid." We hear that Jesus prepares a place for those who love God. I am reassured that in God's house there are many dwelling places for the many people who have lived, a home for the soul, and a final resting place for each of God's beloved children. We who are here do not know what that place is like, but since God loves us and is with us, I am sure that it is a dwelling place where Austin is at rest and can be held in love and in peace. God's peace is not tentative and fragile the way human peace is, and Jesus offers that holy peace to each of us as a gift, so that we too can abide in love and peace. I know that the message of God's love and care was the foundation of the love and kindness that Austin shared with all of you. May it also be a comfort to you. Surely, though, God is welcoming Austin home. Well done, good and faithful servant. Thank you, Austin, for being loving and kind to many. Come home to your final dwelling place and be at peace. As your hearts are grieving, I hope you seek God's grace and presence and reach out for the love of God at this time. Austin found real hope in a community of faith, and I hope each of you find communities of God's people to welcome you and who remind you of God's love and care. For today at least, be as welcome here as Austin was. Perhaps in your dark times you can find strength and comfort as people have done for thousands of years in the words of Psalm 23, and I invite you to read it together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul. You lead me in right paths for your name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Let us stand and sing this closing hymn softly and tenderly as number 432. there. We are going to, the ushers are going to give people an opportunity to come forward and pay their last respects, and so they'll be queuing row by row as we come. And so we'll take that time to do that. Let us pray. Holy, loving, and gracious God, we commend your servant Austin to your care and trust that you are welcoming this good and faithful one into your presence. Be with him and with his family as he is present with you and absent with us. From us. Let us go now from this place knowing that the love of God is upon each of you. The peace of Christ Jesus is yours for asking, and the comfort of the Spirit will be with you now and in the days ahead. Amen.